Hi guys, I will explain today about cinematic, fiction and drama British movie called About Time. The movie tells story of Time Lake, a young guy who grows up in Cornwall in a house by the sea with his eccentric family, consisting of his ever-busy mother Mary, his father James who spends his afternoon playing with him, his uncle Desmond, and his sister Catherine or Kit Kat. Unusually, this family has quite strange habits, like going every day to the beach for tea, or watching movies in the yard every Friday regardless of the weather. They also host a New Year's party with their family and friend every year. At this year's party, Tim tries something new by finding a girl as his couple to start the year. But he ends up being dragged around by his friend, Jay, and accidentally knocks over a table. On the other hand, Kit Kat manages to flirt with a man named Jimmy. During the countdown to the new year, Tim has been dancing with a girl called Polly who leans for a kiss, but he shakes her hand instead, leaving her disappointed. The next day, Tim is woken up by his sister. After that, he is called by his father to his room where James informs him of a family secret, that the men of this family have the secret ability to travel back in the time. At first, Tim does not believe him that they can travel back in the time, but his father gives him the instruction to do time travel, which are basically to lock himself in a dark place like a large cupboard while thinking of the place and time where he wants to be. Tim still thinks that his father's words are a joke, so he decides to prove them. He goes inside the closet and thinks of the New Year's party last night. A few moments, he comes out of the closet and is surprised to see that his clothes has been changed to clothes he was wearing last night. Tim goes downstairs, and is suddenly pulled by Jay, but this time he is able to avoid a table that he previously knocked over, and likewise, he kissed Polly during the countdown. After everything he has been through, Tim finally realized that he has a strange ability and decides to go back into closet to travel back to the present. He continues to talk and listens to his father's experience about the ability. In the D&D, James discourages his son from using the ability to win money, or he will lose more valuable things like love. Because of that, Tim decides that he will use it to improve his love life by having a girlfriend. The following summer, Kit Kat invites her friend Charlotte to stay at the beach house for 2 months. While they are sunbathing one afternoon, Charlotte asks Tim to put some sunscreen on her back. Since he secretly likes her, Tim uses the opportunity to help her, but he ends up spilling the bottle on her instead. He immediately uses his ability to travel back in the time and acts more cautiously about it. Tim tries to impress Charlotte over the summer, but he fails every time until her last day on her stay. On the night before she leaves, Tim finally confesses his love to her, but she instantly turned down. Discovering that Kit Kat already warned her that he might do this, Charlotte tells him that he should have told her earlier, where things might have been different, and when he go 1 month back, she told him to wait her last day to see if something happens between them. Tim realized that he never has a chance with Charlotte because is uninterested in him. He also learns that time travel cannot change anyone's mind. After the summer, Tim leaves the house and moves to London to start a career as a lawyer, living with his father's friend Harry. Tim is excited for the new chapter of his life, but at the same time he found Harry is angry. In first 6 months he failed to get a girlfriend. He has made friends with a co-worker called Rory. But everything changes when Jay invites him to Domhnall, a strange restaurant where the guests eat in total darkness. There the two meet 2 girls named Mary and Joanna. Tim and Mary get to know each other in the darkness. After dinner, Tim and Jay finally meet the girls face to face. Tim gets Mary's phone number and they plan to meet again, but Jay is out of the lick. Then Tim go to home and find distraught Harry, whose opening night of his new play has been ruined by an actor forgetting his lines. Then he decides to travel back in time and joins Harry before the opening night. He then asks the lead actor to rehearse his lines, and the play is going well, but another actor has forget his lines instead. Tim helps the actor, and the play ends up being a triumph. When he tries to call Mary, he discovers that by going back to help Harry, the dinner with Mary never happened. He desperately joins Harry for the breakfast the next morning. Harry shows him a newspaper which published an article about his successful work. On the other hand, Tim only notices an ad for Kate Moss exhibition in the city. He knows that Mary is big fan of Kate Moss, so he spends several days sitting on a bench in the exhibition waiting for Mary to arrive. A week later, Mary finally arrives and Tim approaches her. They both get to know each other again and recount their respective lives. But Tim discovers that she now has a boyfriend named Rupert. He asks her when and where they met, knowing that Mary met Rupert at Joanna's party. When he arrives at Joanna's apartment, Tim convinces Mary to leave the party with him before Rupert arrives. Then they enjoy a lovely dinner and get to know each other better. Mary asks Tim to walk her to her car, which parked in front of her house. Then suggests that she practically invites him to spend the night with her. Their relationship develops well over the following month, and Tim moves Mary so they can live together, and Tim gets to meet Mary's parent who suddenly come to her house. At first, things go a bit awkward, but with a couple of time travels everything works out. One night he wants to watch a play, but Mary is too tired to keep him company. So he invites Rory to watch with him, and when the show is over, he encounters Charlotte, but conversation quickly turns awkward. He tries a second time, but it still does not go well. On the next attempt, Tim decides not to approach her, so he continues on his way with Rory. But this time Charlotte who spots him and approaches to him, and she invites him to dinner, and she mentions her regrets about turning him down last summer. And she asks him to walk to her apartment and go inside with her, but Tim refuses and turns her down. He rushes back home and asks Mary to marry him, which she gladly accepts. The following summer, Tim takes Mary to meet his parents. Mary is getting closer to Tim's mother, and Tim spends quality with his father, and he also meets Kit Kat, who tells him that her life in London was not going well, and that she broke up with Jimmy. At dinner, the family is surprised to learn that Tim and Mary will get married, and the wedding ceremony will take place very soon, because Mary is pregnant. The wedding day finally arrives and everything goes perfectly. Their wedding day is filled with romance and laughter, although they have a few problems, such as a storm is ravaging the ceremony venue, and the biggest problem is that Tim has choose Rory as the best man who gives a speech, but he make problems, so Tim decides to fix it by travel back on the time to ask Jay to be the man who gives speech, but that does not work either, until Tim chooses father to give speech. A few months after their marriage, Mary get a girl called Posey. They also moved to a bigger house, so they can live comfortably as a family. At this time, Tim admits that time travel is no longer useful as her starts to enjoy every moment. Posey's first birthday finally arrives. All the guests also come, including Harry and Rory, but Kit Kat does not show up at the party. After a while, the doorbell rings and Jimmy suddenly arrives to inform the family that Kit Kat was driving drunk after an argument with him, causing her to crash her car on the way to Tim's house. Hoping to save her, Tim goes back in time and picks her from her home instead. When he talks to Mary about Kit Kat's condition, Tim realizes that he does not solve the problem. Even thought he saved her from accident. He intends to interfere in her life, otherwise she will continue to have problems with her drinking habits and her boyfriend. So Tim confesses secret ability to his sister and takes her back in time during the New Year's party where she met Jimmy. This time Kit Kat vents her anger by punching Jimmy. They manage to return to the present, and Kit Kat realized that she knows his feelings with Jay, so she dates him instead, and it turns out that their relationship is better than she had with Jimmy. On the other hand, Tim happily returns home only to find Posey has never been born and he has a son instead. So he immediately goes into a closet and travels back to the past precisely in the day his son was born to talk to his father. James explains that they cannot change events to their children's birth and ensure that that exact child will still be conceived. If he wishes to keep Posey, he can never change anything that happened before she was born. Tim accepts that he cannot change his sister's life by changing her past and allowing the crash to occur. Ensuring Posey's birth while Kit Kat is in the hospital, Tim and Mary stay by her side until she realizes that she has to improve her own life. Mary tells her to try dating a guy who is nice to her, and Tim takes advantage of that to suggest her to start seeing Jay. Coming home from the hospital, Tim sees his little girl and implies to have another baby. They have a baby boy 2 years later and a perfect life. One time the couple accidentally leave their daughter downstairs where she destroys Mary's important manuscript from her office, so Tim decides to use his ability to fix it, but suddenly they get a call from Tim's mother, saying that James has been diagnosed with terminal cancer, so Tim, Mary and Kit Kat travel to the beach house where Tim learns that time travel cannot undo his father's cancer, as going back for enough would risk the birth of Tim and Kit Kat, something he is unwilling to do. His father is known for some time traveling back in time to effectively extend his life and spend more time with his family with the remaining weeks of his life. James teaches Jimmy he considers a much more important lesson by using his ability to be truly happy. The first is to live life as normally as possible with all everyday tensions and worries. Second, after he lives the day once for the first time, he should go back and enjoy moments of his life while noticing how sweet the world can. Tim follows this advice and finds happiness in his life, but sometimes there are days that are better lived once, like the day of his father died. He traveled to the past to visit his father while he is still in good health. Even after James' death, Tim is comforted because he can still travel back to the past whenever he misses his father. One day Mary tells Tim that wants a third child. He is reluctant at first because it means he will not be able to visit his father again. After much thought he ends up accepting because he knows that there is nothing that makes him happier than being a father with the woman he loves. As his youngest child is about to be born, Tim travels back one last time to tell his father that he cannot visit him anymore. As such, they both travel back to relive a fond memory from Tim's early childhood, being careful not to actually change the experience to avoid causing any changes to the present. Returning to the current timeline, Mary gives birth to a baby girl and Tim finally accepts the loss of his father. He also continues with life normally and enjoys moment of it, while Kit Kat gradually recovers and gives birth to her child with Jay. The movie ends with Tim discovering the formula for his own happiness, that is better to live each day once, deciding from then on not to time travel at all and starting to appreciate life with his family as if he is living for the second time. And so, dear viewers, the movie ends. Don't forget to press the like button and subscribe to the channel to support us and so we can continue to provide more content. See you later.